We're so excited that you could join us tonight. Thank you so much for that. We know your time is really valuable. Thank you for being here with us. So I'd like to introduce Leanna. She is part of our youth board. We have our interns with us here tonight, ready to share lots of great info with you. So stay tuned for our special guests and an announcement from Leanna.
Thank you, Suzanne. Hi, everyone. My name is Leanna. As Suzanne mentioned, I'm a youth board member here at Clean for Kids. And at Clean for Kids, we have 6 teams, and social, racial, and climate justice is a part of all of what we do. Tonight, we are sharing some more information about permaculture and organic farming from our lovely guests, George and Marlo. So we look forward to hearing them later in the panel discussion. You are also welcome to check out our website at cleanforkids.org to learn about our 6 teams and climate action plans on the homepage. We also welcome students to earn community service by taking notes, creating infographics, art, music, video clips, and so much more about what you learned. And more information about that is on our website at cleanforkids.org. You're also welcome to visit our YouTube channel where we post all our panel discussions and additional materials on different environmental topics. And we also welcome college students or adults to fill out an application to intern or volunteer with us. And we also have many different contests and challenges. If you go to our contest page on our website, you'll see a variety of contests like art, music, poetry, STEM projects, infographics, and so much more. And if you like to write poetry, we have a contest for you.
So World Poetry Day is on March 21st, and the Today Is contest is a way to show your art, music, videos, research reports, and teaches us about what important things happened on that day. We are so excited to hear from you. And there are also important dates on March, such as World Wildlife Day, World Water Day, Women's History Month, and Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery, and other important dates.
Thank you, Darren, for those important dates and information. We also have the Call It Out Challenge to call out injustice that we see in our society and about the environment and so much more. As Martin Luther King Jr. did state, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And somewhere in the world, I won't continue, but basically we must protect people and communities from toxic air and water pollution and stop toxic chemicals and pesticides from being allowed near our workers, children at school, at our homes, and our seniors and all of us. This is especially important when we talk about air pollution, since there's a lot of communities of concern, since there's a lot of these frontline communities living near these sources of pollution, near these factories and so much more. They're more likely to have higher rates of diabetes, heart disease, asthma, and it is also a racial justice issue, as Black children have a 500% higher death rate from asthma compared to white children. So it's really important that we address these issues and how they interact with both racial and social justice as well. We also have a petition that Darren is going to talk about.
Yeah, so there's a petition on the Kern County Ordinance Action, and it's to stop new oil gas drilling in Kern City. And this ordinance is called Ordinance 2020A, and it would allow over 40,000 new oil and gas wells in Kern County. Kern County has the worst air pollution in the US and has the second highest levels of ozone pollution due to fossil fuels. Air pollution can trigger asthma, and asthma is the #1 reason why children miss school, and the 3rd leading reason why children under 15 are hospitalized. Countless studies show harms to pregnant women, children, the public, wildlife, birds, trees, plants, soil, air, and water, and the climate from burning and extraction of fossil fuels. I'll put the directions and the information I just shared in the chat. And so please email or leave a voicemail anytime before Friday of March 5th at 5 p.m. PST, and make a comment during the meeting or anytime during the meeting, and I'll put the information through the chat. So for Team 3, so I'm part of Team 3, and we're working on adding a no idling policy to the Climate Action Plan, also known as CAP, and we're trying to pass a no idling resolution that allows no idling signs in your city, which will be effective to protect the environment and people's health. And so one issue that we want to discuss is how car exhaust is toxic for human health. Air pollution in car exhaust is very harmful to people, and it can trigger asthma. One reason why we care is because asthma is the #1 reason why kids miss school, the leading reason kids under 15 are hospitalized, as I said before, and according to a scientific study, 1 minute of idling has more carbon dioxide than 3 packs of cigarettes. I'd also like to add that we have a no idling contest for K to 12 students, and students may draw or use the computer to make no idling signs to remind people to turn off their engines when they are parked. Also, no idling signs should be in parks and near city buildings as a reminder, and it will help reduce pollution and greenhouse gases which cause climate change. So if you would like to work with us to get the no idling signs and no idling policy in the Climate Action Plan cities, please let us know. And you can go to our cleanearthforkids.org website to see Team 3 No Idling page for ideas and a resource packet for schools and businesses. And here is Anna to talk about These Are the Hands contest.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, Darren. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Anna, and I have a background in statistics. I'm hoping to incorporate environmental statistics and data to ignite a call to action to help protect our environment. So the These Are the Hands contest is open to everyone of all ages. We hope you will join us in making a drawing and decorating a hand to recognize, honor, and lift up people working for change and to make life better for others. Everyone is encouraged to participate and honor someone making a positive difference in your school, community, city, state, or in our world. You can draw and decorate a picture of a hand, add symbols, words, and pictures to honor their work. Our artist, Judith, drew a hand for the California Assembly member, Almar Tucci, a Clean Earth for Kids champion who is working to reduce air pollution, pesticides, and environmental hazards. Almar Tucci sits on the Committee on Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials and is also the chair of the California Climate Committee. You can see the video of our interview with him on Clean Earth for Kids on YouTube. So that is available on our YouTube website. And next, I'm going to be talking a little bit about plastics. So a couple of months ago, one of our interns, Jillian, asked us how we were reducing our plastics and gave us a lot of really good information. So she will be checking in with us in a few weeks to find out how you're reducing plastics and listening to your ideas. You can also visit Team 6 on our website and see our panel discussions on our YouTube and listen to Dr. Sarah Jean Royer from Scripps Institute, who discovered that greenhouse gas methane comes from plastics. So furthermore, this week, the California Assembly member had a meeting on plastics with research and experts all over the world talking about how we must eliminate and reduce plastics. I will put the link in the meeting I'll put the link to the meeting in the chat. I believe Leanna has done so already, so thank you, Leanna. The slides and information shared are excellent, and we highly recommend you watch them. So you can fast forward to the multiple presentations if you'd like. So that's awesome. And here's Leanna.
Thank you, Anna. So again, taking action is really, really important, especially when it comes to plastics. The making and burning of plastics causes tons of greenhouse gases and toxic air and water pollution and so many more damaging things to the environment and our human health. So you can visit Team 6 for ideas and resources for more about plastics. In terms of climate action and so much more, we are working to help pass bills in Congress, as well as more policies on the local levels as well. So next Tuesday, we'll be commenting at the City Council meeting in Vista. So please let us know if you'd like to send in a comment and we can help you kind of organize that. As in a few weeks, we will also be doing another presentation on plastics and include information on representatives to contact and bills that we support, and we would hope that you support as well, and we'll urge your local officials to support as well. And we also invite you to look at our climate action plans that are on our homepage. So these are things that we ask cities to do on behalf of the environment, on behalf of the people, and so much more. For example, we are asking cities to use 100% renewable energy and set goals to reduce greenhouse gases and toxic pollution by certain years and certain dates and so much more. So if you do go to our website and you click our action plan, we have divided it into these actions into our 6 teams. So it's kind of within that framework. And when you look at this, you kind of can think about like, are these things happening in your city? What things would you like to do and work on for your city specifically? And how does that relate to clean air and clean water and just overall more environmentally friendly future. And an action plan will help reduce greenhouse gases and toxic pollution overall. So that is the kind of the key idea that we're going for here. We are also working to pass climate emergencies in different cities. So these calls city officials to declare climate change as an emergency, and that's something that they will act on immediately in terms of, and how do they act on that? That kind of relates back to the climate action plans that we're also trying to get in these cities. Over 1,000 cities in the United States have passed climate emergencies, and passing a climate emergency is important because, you know, we want to make sure that climate change is taken seriously, and it's not always taken as seriously, especially when we have a lot of conflicts of interests in terms of certain plastic companies and fossil fuel companies trying to get in here and saying that it's not a thing that we need to deal with, when it is. It's very real, it's very prominent, and it impacts the future of our children and the health of our children and our future generations. So if it's going to impact us later, then we should act on it now. And the city of La Mesa just passed a climate emergency thanks to City Council member Jack Shu, who is also working to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and pollutions. And Council member Jack Shu and Oceanside Mayor Esther Sanchez have been appointed to the Air Resource Board Committee to work for clean air. So this is really great news. They're pretty climate friendly, and so we're really excited to see what great things that they're going to do. And the last little bit of information is about next Tuesday, March 9th at 3 p.m. The city of Carlsbad will see the climate emergency resolution by the Carlsbad Sierra Club team. So I will put information in the chat on how to submit public comments, but any public comments are really important as it shows the city your support for something as so important as we just talked about. A climate emergency resolution is really key to getting the city to kickstart some real action. So I'll paste that in the chat. And while I'm pasting this, I'm gonna also talk a little bit about fracking and liquid nitrogen gas. So to reduce greenhouse gases and the toxic pollution that we were just talking about, we have to stop at the source, and that source is fracking. Fracking is harmful to our air, water, and health. I will also put another petition in the chat that asks President Biden to stop fracked gas exports. So you can check out our YouTube videos on our YouTube channel where Jonah and others explain the harms of fracking in detail. It produces methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas. And greenhouse gases, as some of us may know, trap heat, and those heat, that heat heats up our oceans and our planet and changes our weather patterns drastically, as well as harming our oceans a lot more. And this methane gas from fracking is often turned into liquefied natural gas for export. So not only is the methane gas potent and dangerous for our environment, it's also very dangerous for transport, because this is very flammable liquid natural gas, and it can be explosive if spilled. And a lot of times they're exporting this near a lot of, like, going through neighborhoods or communities or just near a lot of cars. You know, a lot of accidents can happen, and it's very dangerous. And these emissions increase a lot of things like mercury compounds, ammonia, sulfuric acid, and a lot of other stuff, and neurotoxins that are harmful for our brain. They put that in the air. So we want to make sure that we get rid of that. So I'll put more information about that in the chat. And here's Anna to talk about Protect What You Love.
Awesome. Thank you, Leanna. So next I'll be talking about our contest, #ProtectWhatYouLove. So you can participate by sending us a picture or drawing of what you love and why we should protect it. So let's work together to protect our forests, national parks, and wildlife, clean water, clean air, oceans, rivers, streams, and our health. So you can take a picture or draw or write about your favorite animal or place and why we should protect it. Soon our Protect What You Love contest will be shared on our Instagram and on social media, and further details also on our website. So together we can make a difference, and we look forward to working with you and all of the participants for this contest. So next I'd like to introduce John Williams.
Hi everyone, I'm John Williams. please support the Protecting America's Wilderness and Public Lands Act. So this is a really important act. It would protect 2.7 million acres as wilderness, which is huge if you think about that. That's land that could be developed and is now going to be preserved for nature. It would also protect wildlife habitat and migration corridors in Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, Washington, and California. This is really important because certain wildlife have very specific patterns of living that they've adopted and evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. And obviously humans coming into America, well, especially like Europeans coming and colonizing it rapidly, exploiting the land. This is very hurtful to all these various wildlife. So making these habitat and migration corridors is really crucial to keep these vital species alive. And then it also supports indigenous tribes and local communities. So this is a very important petition, and I'll put the link in the chat right now. There that is. So next we have the Oahu Fish Advisory. So this, so Silverwood Lake is a man-made reservoir 80 miles east of Los Angeles, and it stores water for the San Bernardino and Metropolitan Water District. There have been these types of advisories about mercury and PCBs at Silverwood Lake for over 10 years. And so mercury is, in case you guys don't know, it's a naturally occurring metal that is released into the environment from mining and burning coal. It accumulates in fish in the form of methyl mercury, which can damage the brain and nervous system, especially in developing children and fetuses. So this is pretty scary because a lot of times you don't even know you're consuming mercury. And for adults, it's not the hugest deal, but for children, it can really be super detrimental. And it's scary because, the individual can't do much to control it. It really has to be a group effort. So yeah, that's about mercury. And then there's also PCBs, which are polychlorinated biphenyls. So they're a group of industrial chemicals used in electronics. They're linked to cancer and a number of other serious health effects on the immune, nervous, and endocrine systems. And they were banned in the US since the late 1970s, but it takes, because of spills and leaks and not being disposed of properly, they're still getting into the environment, which is really not good. So please also make sure to look into this more, the OEHA. And All right, so now here's Film Darren to talk about the neurotoxic pesticide called chlorpyrifos.
Thank you, John Williams. So yeah, if you've been here before, you may have heard us talk about this before, but chlorpyrifos is a extremely dangerous chemical used in a lot of foods, a lot of crops, including apples, oranges, strawberries, corn, wheat, and citrus fruits. It's already banned in California and Hawaii, but it's not banned nationwide, so we are trying to ask the EPA to ban chlorpyrifos. It's still illegal to use despite the EPA's own science showing it hurts children's brains even in small doses. And so I'm going to put that link in the chat right now for you guys to look at. And then the next thing I want to talk about is the PACTPA, which is the Protect America's Children from Toxic Pesticide Act. Pesticides are used in our yards, playgrounds, parks, next to sidewalks, and on agricultural crops. It can have serious health effects on people like gardeners, farm workers, children, teachers, and everyone else. Everyone is vulnerable to this issue. We need to stop dangerous pesticides used at schools and parks and on our fields. Pesticides can drift through the air, get into our water and our food, causing damage. And so this act has been introduced by former Senator Tom Udall of New Mexico, and it is in the House, and he is in the House from Colorado, sponsored this bill for this act. So let's work together to ask more senators and Congress people to sponsor this bill. We need to do.
I was going to say.
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry I interrupted you. Keep going. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I just want to say we need to do a social media campaign and let everyone know. So if you have any ideas, please let us know. And then, yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'm so sorry. I thought you were finished. Okay, so yes, with PACTPA, with this, we are inviting former Senator from New Mexico, Tom Udall, on a panel discussion, and he is a Cleaning for Kids Champion 2020, along with Assemblymember Almar Suchi, our board member Jay Kloppenstein, and Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, who's been with us before talking about environmental justice. So there are 4, for example. We have a few others. Anyway, so I wanted to say about PACTPA. So Jonah and others are leading an action to get more representatives from the Senate, right? Because Tom Udall, we should actually on the slide put former senator. So the former senator who's retired, he's amazing. We have senators that have signed this already. We need more. And we, in the House of Representatives, we all, as Darren said, we have a representative from Colorado bringing this forward. And so we can talk more about that. So we really need to get on this and make sure that wherever you live, your representative, your senator, everybody has signed and co-sponsored PACTPA. And there's another one, SEPA, and I think Darren's going to talk about that as well. But we all need to do that. It's just really, really important for us to do that. And Jonah will be talking, and Darren and all of us will be talking more about that in the future. So sorry to interrupt you. Okay, go ahead, Darren.
No, it's no worries. So yeah, like Suzanne said, there's also the Save America's Pollinators Act, which would place much needed regulations on pesticides that can or have contributed to the die-off of pollinators. And as you may or may not know, without pollinators, an enormous percentage of the food we consume would no longer be able to be produced. I heard something like 1 out of every 3 bites of food that you eat is thanks to pollination. Okay, and then I would also like to introduce our first speaker, George Corman, a farmer who was raised in Germany in the US. And so just to give a little bit of background, he was born on November 4th, 1957 in Springfield, Ohio, and his father worked as a biomechanical engineer for the American Aero and Space Program. His mother graduated in biology and florist design from the University in Stuttgart, Germany, and George graduated Abitur in 1978 at Hochstaufen Gymnasium in Bad Wimpfen, Germany, and served in the German military from 1978 to 1980. He studied mechanical engineering at Technische Universität Stuttgart from 1989 to 1992, and graduated with a Master of Science with a diploma internship at Daimler AG, working on the project Brake Assist. He worked as a project manager for Contech in Hanover, Germany from 1993 to 1999, and for Luke Hydraulics in Bad Homburg, Germany from 1999 to 2000. And he moved to Encinitas in the state of California in October 2000. He worked as a customer service associate for Sunshine Gardens Incorporated in Encinitas from 2000 to 2004. He worked as a landscape designer and contractor and created his own business, Garden Masters California, from 2001 to the present. He studied horticulture at Miracosta College in Oceanside from 2002 to 2004. He achieved the Permaculture Design Certificate at the San Diego Sustainable Living Institute in 2013, and attended a 5-day course with Mark Shepard about food forest agriculture in 2015. He is creating his own permaculture garden using Ugal beet practices on half an acre of land in Oceanside from 2015 to the present. And so here's George.
Hi, everybody. So I want to keep it brief with the permaculture because I know Marlo is talking about the principles. So I just give a brief introduction to permaculture. It means that it is permanent agriculture, because our agriculture right now is not permanent. It's just one season, then everything gets taken out, destroyed, and they start in the next season again, usually in winter. Many farmers don't do much with their land. Let it just sit there. They don't even cover it with anything, mulch or so. Like here you see in Oceanside a lot, the soil is bare, exposed, and releases a lot of carbon dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere when it is bare. So that's really not a good thing to do as a farmer. It's not a practice with nature, it's just against nature because they don't want to invest in it. So they save money. It's about the money more important than our atmosphere and our environment. So permaculture is a system that entirely commits itself to sustainable development practices. That's very important. And it does not apply only to agriculture. It can be applied to any industrial or business activity, even to your household. You can manage your household by following the principles of agriculture. And I know many of you do that already. And doing sustainable practices, avoiding plastic, recycling, and growing their own food. That's all in direction permaculture. It does provide tools so you can create healthy environment and energy, efficient living, learning and working spaces. That's important too, especially learning spaces. So schools can, in my opinion, every school, every high school at least, should offer at least free will or even mandatory a class of permaculture. So every student knows about this when he goes into professional life. I think that would be really awesome if we pursue that and push our school boards towards introducing permaculture in the curriculum. That would be great. So permaculture design is a functional design system. So it focuses on functions and it combines functions to a lot of good benefits. It satisfies all human and animal basic needs such as food, shelter, habit, energy, social context, and aesthetics. So think about farmers today. If you talk to a farmer, what do you do to improve your aesthetics of your land? He just looks at you with big eyes and says, I don't even know what that is. So permaculture takes care even of aesthetics and makes it look and be beautiful. So beauty and spreading beauty is part of permaculture. And one of the most important things is that permaculture takes care of the soil. It multiplies fertility of soil and nature and diversity. So it goes away from monocultures to polycultures, to a lot of species, which helps the wildlife again, it helps the insects and benefits everybody. I know Marlo will talk about the principle of permaculture in her own slide, so I'm going to skip on those. There are two guys, or people who lived in 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s in Australia. It's David Holmgreen and Bill Mollison, and they formulated in the late 70s the principles of permaculture and wrote this thick book. It's called the Handbook of Permaculture by those two people. So everybody who really wants to go into that should purchase that book. It's a little bit expensive, but it's like you do it only once in your life, so then you have it. Yeah, next slide. I did a little sketch today, and this reminds me of what West Coast tomato growers does here. They are farming here in Eastern Oceanside and Bonsall area, and right now many of their lands are laying bare. They don't do anything with it, so it's exposed to wind, rain erosion, and they mainly create a dust bowl if they don't take care of it. So there should be an ordinance in the future from local governments and counties and state governments to require that every landowner, private or business, doesn't matter, for nature doesn't matter, has to cover the land. You cannot leave soil uncovered. It's just really bad for environment. So this sketch shows you a little bit that they usually drive up the hill. So if it's like a slopey area like we have here in the Bonsall area, much more slopes than flat areas, they drive up with the plow up the hill and create channels down the hill with the gravity. So when it rains on those plowed channels, it promotes erosion and washes away the topsoil. Topsoil is only a foot or 2 feet at the most. Below there's no more life. And another thing I want to mention, a living soil has per cubic foot, about 200 billion organisms. Air doesn't have that and water doesn't have that. That's only available in soil. So I don't think that any of those farmers know anything about that. So maybe we can go there and educate them and let them know that the soil is the most condensed living space on this planet, just the upper 2 feet. So if we don't take care of those 2 feet, then we are going to be doomed and have big problems in the future. Our children and grandchildren don't find fertile soil anymore. There's no way to grow food anymore. So as you can see on this slide, let me go back one more time to the former slide. What happens here is that the tractor is compacting the soil, is polluting the air, is taking out all the crops, is releasing carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases from the soil into the air, exposed to rain, sun, and wind erosion. So that's not a good practice. On the next slide, sketch, you see how it could be done differently with pretty simple measures. The only thing is you need to turn around the tractor and let it run along the contour lines on the same elevation lines. So the water going to stay there, and you don't want to turn the soil too, because if you turn and plow soil, you kill mainly most of the microbiology. So all you do is, there's a tool, it's called a deep plow. You can aerate your soil, loosen it up, and add oxygen to the deeper areas of the soil. And then you want to keep it mulched, so the tractor or the machine you use does not compact the soil as much. You can reduce compaction by 90% just with a layer of mulch. It's pretty amazing. So in this slide, you see that you plant, first you create the roads. That you see there's on the lower third of the sketch, there are sections like roads, swale, food forests, swale, annual crops, road, swale, and so on. So that's a sequence of zones you have on your land. With this, you avoid 100% runoff. So there's no more erosion from water. It doesn't matter how heavy it rains. And everybody knows that rain gonna come more infrequent, but much, much harder because of the higher temperatures, the ocean emits much more moisture into the atmosphere, and it collects in much more concentrated areas and creates, and we have that already, heavy flooding in some areas, and other areas stay dry. So it's very much more unbalanced and out of whack. So we have to get prepared for that, for heavy rainfalls, and avoid the erosion of our topsoils. And you do that by building those swales every 30, 40, 50 feet, depends on the whole design, what kind of crop you have, and then build rows of trees along those swales. So the trees have the function, first be a windbreak, so your crop is protected from high winds because the wind speeds increase too. Then it creates shade, so it cools down the area, so you don't have so much water evaporation anymore, and it creates a better microclimate in that spot where you want to grow your crop, and it holds the soil in place. That's number 3, the advantage. The roots of a tree are much better than anything else to keep soil in place. And number 4, of many more advantages, is that it sequesters carbon dioxide into the soil. And the amounts of carbon dioxide of just one 30-year-old tree he puts into the soil is unknown to now. But we know it can be a lot because those trees do that 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So they do that even at nighttime. So it's very important to work with the trees in the agriculture. It's good that we think about preserving the open spaces and the parks and the wildlife, but the area in the United States which is used by agriculture is much bigger. And if you cut all the plants down and leave the soil exposed, you are making it so much heavier or difficult for Earth to breathe. And we could sequester all the carbon dioxide of all the cars and factories put into the atmosphere. We could sequester a huge, much more bigger amount into the soil just to using those practices in agriculture, because that's the biggest area we are using of our land. So you're using mulching and you're using berry plants in between. So the farmer going to not have just the annual crop like tomatoes or corn to harvest. The farmer has, in addition, the possibility to harvest nuts and fruits and market much more things. So the farmer going to become more resilient for crisis. If there's a disease on the tomatoes. Okay, we skip on tomatoes this year and do another crop, and we can still rely on our fruits and nuts we're going to harvest and the berries in between. And you can do even animal grazing. I have that on the next slide. What you can see there is a food forest where the farmer is putting his goats or cows or chicken or in the sequence sheeps that graze through the food forest areas between the swales and the annual crops areas. He doesn't need to feed them. He doesn't need to buy food because the food, he's going to put the seed out in the grasses and the leguminosas and the dandelion, and all those plants are eaten by the goats, and he doesn't need to buy food for them, and they keep the weeds down. So you have another staggering of functions. You do one thing, put goats in there, and get multiple advantages out of it. They fertilize the ground, and they keep the weeds down, and you can profit from it and have advantage. Okay, that's really a main issue what I have when I listen to Mark Shepard especially, is that food forestry can really save this planet. We should really introduce that and make it mandatory that each farmer has mandatory to plant trees on his land. So it's not only in the city areas or in the parks and residential areas. It has to be mainly in the agriculture because they use the biggest space on this planet. So then I just want to talk really quickly about a practice I really like a lot, which was invented by Sep Holzer. He's a permaculturist who started his farm in 1962 in the Austrian Alps, way up elevation. And what he did is he created those swales and managed the water along those swales. So he created on his land, he has about, I don't know, about 70 acres or more than 100 acres now. And he has like 70 ponds there. And the Hügelbeet is a beautiful area. It can be charged with biomass and provide fertilizer and moisture for those plants for 25 years. So the farmer don't need to buy any fertilizer. It's in the soil already because it's carbon, and the fungus and the microbiology brings those carbons to the plants and fertilize them. And the last picture you see the Hügelbeet I'm working on at my garden. It's about 4 feet high and about 8 to 10 feet wide. And this is charged with a lot of tree trunks and roots and leaves and even old books and clothing. Everything goes in there which can be broken down by the microbiology. It's another beautiful aspect you have here. You don't need to bend down I just planted a few plants like rosemary and mint. If you want to harvest, you just bend over a little bit, but not all the way down. Don't need to go on your knees and harvest right there. So it's much more convenient to get to your harvest and to your crop. And another advantage is if you do it south and north, you have first thing on the east side when the sun comes up, you have warmth there. So after cold nights, like temperature sensitive plants who like it warm, they get first ray of sun early in the morning, and then in the afternoon they are more on the cool side. So it's getting really baking hot on the western side where the sun is standing all afternoon. So you can create microclimates and diverse your crop on the left side and right side, east side, west side, and create wonderful results with it. And it's long term. It's for a lifetime almost. You can use this. It's a little bit more work in the beginning, but when it's installed, you just reap off it and profit from it. Okay, that's all from my side, and I'm happy to listen to Marlo now. I think you're gonna introduce Marlo. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will be introducing Marlo in a second, but just as a little intermission, I know John Williams had something that he did over the summer that was related to this conversation. So if you'd like to share a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, so recently during COVID and also before, my mom has been very into gardening. So I was sort of her worker outside. She was sort of the designer and I was the implementer, the planter. And yeah, she really followed a lot of these concepts of permaculture. So for example, she was really big on planting perennial plants. So she almost has an entirely perennial garden. for anyone who doesn't know, perennial means like long lasting. So some plants, they only last a year and then you have to plant them again. But she plants a lot of perennials. Another thing she does to try and support the ecosystem is she exclusively plants native plants. So I live on the East Coast in Pennsylvania, and what my mom does is she basically only uses native plants, which is really nice. It's really good for the environment. It's good for the ecosystem around us. Because while some places are being cut down for development, my mom is making it so native plants are in our backyard. Another thing is also, well, something that I found really great was my mom also designed and I planted this sort of butterfly sanctuary. So we have a lot of butterflies in Pennsylvania, and there's a special plant that they really like. It's a very beautiful plant. So yeah, we had that, and then it was amazing seeing all the butterflies flourishing. I love being out. You can see me outside there. I love being outside, just the bees flying around, pollinating everything, butterflies flying around. So it's really great. And yeah, so I love gardening. And
thank you for that, that wonderful story. And now I'm going to be introducing Marlo. She is a retired special education teacher and member of the La Mesa Sunrise Rotary, has been growing organic food for her family for 35 years. She received her Master Gardener certification in Los Angeles, where she volunteered in its unique Gardening Angel program, building gardens and teaching gardening in schools. Her love of gardening and children continued in San Diego, where she revitalized several school gardens and ran after-school gardening programs. More recently, she led school field trips at Wild Willow Farm in San Isidro. Marlo has completed the permaculture design course through the San Diego Sustainable Living Institute, and soon will be helping gardeners at the new La Mesa City's community garden. In her presentation, she shares what methods she uses and improvements she has made at her La Mesa home based on sustainable environmental practices in an urban setting. And so without further ado, here is Marlo.
All right, I'm going to start sharing my program a little bit. And I just want to say what a wonderful, how wonderful I feel about being here with all of you. I've been at a couple of your previous meetings, and I'm so impressed with your passionate way that you're trying to protect the environment for our children. And as somebody who has 4 grandchildren under the age of 4, I know how important that is, that next generation coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and start my program. I call my property Happy Nest. I think that I don't know, I just like that name. I thought about it for a really long time, and isn't it cool to name your house something? So this is my very small property. I live 5 blocks from a popular boulevard, La Mesa Boulevard. And my property is very small. I probably have about 300 square feet, and it's just outlined in red here. I grow so this is multi-level. This is like 1, 2, 3, 4 levels here. I grow my vegetables on top of my garage, 2-car garage, and I have fruit trees along here, and I have fruit trees starting here all the way up to there. And I have about 15 fruit trees right now. And let's see, I have some, major issues. I'm on a hillside. I have very little land. My house faces north, and the south side is blocked by a hill known as Mount Nebo. And so I face challenges, not only by not having very much land, but not having a lot of sun either. So permaculture, I took that permaculture design class in 2012, which is, I think, a couple years before George. But it's very impressive for a gardener and for anyone who cares about the earth, you know, because of the ethics involved. You know, it's about caring for the earth, caring for people, and sharing what you have. So in this program, in my presentation, I'm going to pick out a few of these 12 areas of focus. I won't touch on all of them, but it kind of gave me gave me some structure for what I'm trying to do, and continues to give me structure for what I do here. So in permaculture, they have a concept of catch and store energy. So the way I see it, the earth is giving us free energy, things that are coming from the sky, things that are ours to capture and use. And this is how I use sun. I have solar panels in my house. I've had them for about 10 years. And of course, the plants need that energy from the sun. So that's more catching and storing the energy of the sun to grow plants and grow food and medicine for myself and my family. And then I do a lot of rainwater harvesting. I have about 1,500 gallons of storage. And I'm going to talk more about that. And I have a goal in my property to grow useful, medicinal, and edible plants. So solar panels, these days, it's kind of a no-brainer to have solar panels on your house. You know, there's people going around knocking on your door saying, hey, I'll put solar panels on your house for free. And so that doesn't take a lot of decision making. So this is and as I told you, I'm facing north, and my sun is hidden in the back. So a lot of people can produce 100% of their energy with their solar panels. For me, this is a year, $427 for a year's worth of solar energy. My panels are old, and if I could figure out a way to replace them with the newest kind of solar panels, that I'm sure could be reduced to nothing. What I think is unique, and there's not a lot of thought about rainwater harvesting right now. It's kind of up to the individual, but for me, it's tremendously important. I see it as a way to solve a lot of problems. So here are the systems that I have on my house. As I said, I'm saving about 1,500 gallons, and that 1 inch of rain we had here yesterday filled up all of my rainwater harvesting systems, 1,500 gallons and overflow. So I had rain gutters put on my house, and they go into this system. I happen to just have my house remodeled. So as part of the remodel, I had the pipes. This pipe goes into the ground and then into these rainwater harvesting tanks that are under a new porch that I build. So I use that opportunity. Time I do improvement on my house, it's like, how can I use the space I had? This would have been useless, empty space under my patio, but I have under this porch that we built during the remodel. And this is about 200 gallons, each one of these tanks. And this system works on gravity, and the gravity goes into this hose here, which is on that the top of that two-car garage that you saw. And so I water my, I believe that I haven't turned on city water all winter long. All of my garden's been being watered by this water right here, working on the gravity system. Another system I have is my roof is quite large and over 1,000 square feet. And I have another system. This was my first system where there are the rain gutters. And once again, they go into this tube that goes into my basement, and I have a water harvesting pillow. And that works on a remote and a pump. So I can pump out water on each side of the house. So on the east side of the house, and then in the patio area too, depending on just turning off one knob and opening up the other. And this is about 650 gallons of rainwater. And like I said, that works with a pump system. It's been great. I've had it for 10 years and it's not a problem. And then just to point out that after the plants get watered up here at the top of my garden, I have a system so I'm watering my plants here with rainwater, and then any excess comes down and gets used again, which is a stacking functions from permaculture idea. Use that water as many times as you can. So I still have this slide in here because it makes me feel like I've really accomplished something, because this is no longer future rainwater harvesting. This 300-gallon tank is now inside this very odd closet. My house has a lot of odd spaces. It's all hand built from the 50s and the 70s. So now this 300-gallon tank is in this closet, all plumbed, and there's rainwater, the gutters on this roof here, and the rainwater is working wonderfully. I'm sure that this last rain filled it up, and that works in a gravity system, which waters down below here, this area here. It waters the plants in my patio area here by gravity. So, is it worth it? So as I said, that 1 inch of rain, I can collect 620 gallons of water with 1,000 square feet. So I really need more tanks so I can collect more water. And it's easy. It's easy to do. I just wanted to say that you interns and the youth board in this group has really inspired me over and over again. And this next slide, I've actually created because of your inspiration, because I thought to myself, well, why do I do this? Why is it important to collect rainwater? Why is it important to have solar energy? And I started to think about all the ways collecting rainwater is valuable. And as I said, I made this slide inspired by you all. So plants prefer rainwater. Bill Dean, in his program, his BCK program, he also inspired me as they talked about the problems of stormwater runoff. And so think about it. If 50% of people collected rainwater, storm runoff wouldn't be such a problem, because we'd all be collecting it and it wouldn't be washing all those pesticides and such into the ocean. We'd be all using it. And so this was an interesting thing that happened. We were up traveling in Northern California a couple of years ago, and we started to talk to a man who lived up there, who said that the people in Northern California are pretty upset about us in Southern California. And for those of you who don't live in this area, we really live in, well, a Mediterranean climate, but we have 6 months where we don't have any rain, and we are highly dependent on the Colorado River and people in Arizona. We have to buy water from them. And the people in Northern California are feeling like we're taking their water and that they're running out. They have water reservoirs that are dry and areas that are drying out. And they feel very resentful to us here in Southern California for taking their water. And so I feel like here's the solution to that. We should be independent. We should be collecting our own water. We should be, and it's easy. It's not expensive. Most of my rainwater systems, all of them have been put in by this local company, Catching H2O, and it's not expensive. And I threw in a little bit about xeriscaping here because I really dislike xeriscaping. I feel like it's very unfriendly to animals to have gravel and poiky plants. You know, it increases heat. And as John was saying, using wildflowers and native plants is such a much better idea. And think about it. What you're asking is that I want plants that only need the water that comes naturally in this place. And so with planting native plants, that's a perfect solution. And I don't feel like any of the things I do on my property, I don't feel like I'm making any sacrifices. It's not painful at all. Nothing I do here is painful. I don't feel like I'm losing anything or missing anything. So this truly is a future project, but it just got a little bit closer to coming to fruition. I have an idea about creating in my laundry room, turning a kind of a funky utility sink into like a mini kitchen. And I thought, oh, right up above that, isn't that my bathroom upstairs? So hopefully when we can tap into this, the bathtub upstairs, and have that water from showers and such drain in and the pipes would come out here, and then they would water all the fruit trees that are over here on the side. So number 6 in our in permaculture is produce no waste. So these green bins, I never use them because all of my green waste from the kitchen and the plants, it's all recycled on site. And I have basically 4 composting systems. So this is bokashi, which I like because it's easy for me. I have this bucket in my kitchen and I collect my kitchen waste here. Because you're not supposed to open the lid too often. And so every couple of days, I open the lid of my bokashi, throw my kitchen waste in there, sprinkle it with these microorganisms and fermenting process. And it takes me actually a month to fill this bucket up. And when you put them in there, you press it down really hard because, like I say, it's an anaerobic process, and seal it up really well. And so then after about a month, and this is filled up, I put it in the backyard. And then a couple weeks after that, I dig a hole somewhere in my yard and put it in there. And then after a couple of weeks, that all breaks down and turns into amazing soil full of life and microorganisms. And the thing about bokashi too, this process of composting, is that you can actually put bones and skin and fat and dairy and animal products in it. You just have to let it sit a little bit longer. So another of my composting systems is vermicomposting, and I use very, very fresh kitchen waste. And this is one way to do vermiculture. And what you do is you fill this tray up with your kitchen waste and your worms and some coir, and you keep filling that up until this is full. And then you fill up the second and then the third tray. And the idea is the worms, because that's the trickiest part of vermiculture, is getting the worms away from their castings, otherwise known as black gold, for their power in the garden. They're so powerful in nutrients. So the idea is the worms go up into the top tray, and then what you're left with here is all worm castings, and they sort of separate themselves. And then I have, on my very small property, I have a chipper, and this is where all of my trees and plants that need to be trimmed and all my yard waste gets chipped up and made into compost. And that's my composting area. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. Beginning in April, if you live in La Mesa, and I think some other areas now in North County, and I believe that's where the facility is. They're having a AD facility, which is the anaerobic decomposition. I'm not sure. I'm sorry what that stands for. Anyhow, so in La Mesa and other counties, in San Diego County and other small towns, you're going to be able to put your kitchen waste in that green bin along with all your yard waste, and then they take it to this facility and they churn it up. And the process involves a gas that EDCO will be using to fuel their vehicles, and it's producing a liquid fertilizer that can be used, organic fertilizer that can be used by farmers, and also solid product. So they do say that something like 40% of what's in the landfill, what's going to the landfill these days, is actually material that could be used to create fuel and food for the plants, and complete that cycle. Not this one-way thing to the dump, but we need to think our lives in terms of cycles. So I'm really happy that the government is supporting this. This is the state of California that's insisting that people do this. So, and just to talk about permaculture zones, and George talked about that a little bit, but the idea in permaculture is that at your house, you have zone 1, and that's closest to your house. And that's your herb garden and your food that you use, and maybe plants that need more care. And then as you go further and further away from your house, the zone 5 is where you'd want to put your native plants and your plants that don't need very much care or can live on the rain that's provided naturally. And also maybe your weedy plants, because a lot of herbal plants are very weedy. So in my property, I have a hill. I told you I'm up on a hill, so a little bit out of reach, I keep my native plants. So number 10 in permaculture is to use and value diversity. And I get a little bit concerned about our habits that we have in our lifestyle, as you walk around the neighborhood, everybody has the same 200 plants in their yard. And we have 300,000 plants or more that are possibilities. So why? And it's concerning, as George talked about. What if, these plants, and we've had this happen over and over again with plants that get a disease and they're gone. And so it's really nature's way of telling us that we need diversity in we need to be planting more and different kinds of plants in our yards. So there's really beautiful plants that are also medicine, and that's an important thing for me. This is a feverfew, which is traditionally used in medicine. This is a bouillon plant, which they use the leaves of this plant to make the vegetable bouillon. This is how they flavor it. This is a plant called a gonora, which has medicinal uses. This gorgeous plant is actually a caper. So that those capers that you eat in jars, that's actually what you're eating is the bud of this flower. But man, with flowers this beautiful, who wants to eat capers? I want the flowers. And this gorgeous plant is comfrey, well known for its healing qualities, and St. John's wort grows easily, and these plants grow easily in people's backyards around here, at least. So part of my goal for my property is to show people that even if you live in the city and you have very little land, that you can still grow a lot of different plants, and you can feed yourself, and you can be sustainable. You can, so I have these markers that in my garden, and, hopefully after this COVID is over, I'll be able to pull people through and they can look at the different plants. They talk about the botanical name, which is kind of important, and the common name. And in this case, this Malabar spinach is high in vitamin A and C, in calcium, and where these plants come from and what their uses are. And here you see an ashwagandha plant in my garden. And a permaculture principle is obtain a yield. And these are some of the things I'm growing in my garden. I've got nectarine. This is a persimmon. I have a blood orange. This is some dragon fruit. This is a wonderful plant called a ground cherry. That's like a tomatillo, but that little tomato thing is like a sweet tart lusciousness. I have a mulberry, loquats, and a papaya. And then there's my first avocado, which I picked 2 yesterday. And these are pretty recent pictures from my garden just this winter. So this beautiful kale and strawberries and peas and carrots. And this was a volunteer, but it's also provides a lot of food. And there's some turnips growing over here. So I decided to walk into my local Sprouts health food store here and just walk through the aisle, and what I'm hoping to do is have people reconnect with Mother Earth, and to understand that things are growing, that they can grow, that they're selling in stores legally. So I have gotu-kola in my garden. It grows easily. I have a lemon verbena plant. You saw the ashwagandha. Here's some tulsi, some beautiful calendula, which I make salves out of, that people just say my salves are so great. I grow borage in my garden and St. John's wort. And what I'm hoping to do is to show people by walking them through my garden, that these plants are easy to grow. And just like food, food comes from the ground, it doesn't come from the store. And so does medicine. So these are some more medicinal plants that I grow on my property. This is herbs. This is a laurel, a bay laurel. So bay laurel, bay leaves that you put in your cooking. This is the lemon verbena. This is becoming my Vietnamese and Far Eastern garden. This is gotu-kola growing here. This is Vietnamese coriander. And now I have fishwort. And so I have almost all of the plants growing here that the Vietnamese use in their pho. And this is a turmeric plant, Beautiful. And the plants are beautiful. And it's so lovely to walk through my garden and just grab a leaf and rub it. I love to take people in my garden for the first time and just say, rub this in your hand, and the smells are just wonderful. Or taste this, give them a stevia leaf and have them taste it. And it's like, oh, it's sweet. And so growing all these things, my question becomes, well, what do I do with all of these things that I'm growing? So this is just a natural outlet for the things I grow. I've been getting plants and rooting them so that I have, this is my nursery. I have plants that I can share with others. I've been cutting down my herbs and drying them, and so I can make teas or essential oils with them. And this is my helper. He helps me with most of my compost projects. Michael, he's taking the leaves from rose geranium, which grows so well. And then I reuse thing in my garden. So part of my remodel was to remove a bathtub. And so the bathtub wound up here in the garden. It makes a lovely planter box. And here my strawberries are planted in the kitchen sink. And of course, my garden is organic and I use non-toxic pest management. So I have little pinwheels to help keep the birds from eating my seeds. And then I use these plastic containers from eggs and apples from Costco. They make great little greenhouses. And then I have, for living in the city, I've got lots of creatures that come and live. I've got a little hummingbird nest. A hummingbird just had a baby in my garden. So the butterflies come and the skimmers come and the ladybugs come. And this is my tropical milkweed, which I just learned I have to get rid of because it's not good for the monarchs. And then our friend hawk comes. So these are my helpers. I don't do all of this alone. This is Vanessa. She comes and waters for me twice a week using rainwater. And then this is Michael using my fourth compost method, which is Compost Tea. And once again, that just puts so much soil. Soil is really, even though I'm growing in containers, soil is, it's the key to growing. And anyhow, my saying, bloom where you're planted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was fantastic. So fun. I loved hearing all of the innovative and amazing things that you're working on and doing. So thank you so much for that. And also thank you to George. I didn't want to interrupt earlier to thank George, but that was just absolutely fascinating learning about permaculture. And I loved having both of your presentations. So it just really makes it gel. So thank you so much. I mean, wow, so outstanding.